Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast of your favorite tanking team in the Bay Area. On today's episode, a nice special Saturday edition episode of Locked On Sharks. We have Hunter on from Locked On Penguins. We're going to do a crossover, kind of learn about the Penguins, how their season's gone, how the expect the rest of the season to go, and then a preview of tonight's game. So all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Sharks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm your host, JD Young, contributor at Fear the Fin and San Jose Hockey Now. With me is Hunter Hodies of Locked On Penguins, and we are here to talk Sharks-Penguins, a rivalry that's pretty one-sided because the Penguins beat the Sharks in the Stanley Cup and crushed me and my 4-year-old at the time. I hope you're happy, Hunter.
Hey, that was a fun final back when I was I think I was 18 at the time when they played them in the Stanley Cup final. And, I know the game 6 is the most memories, but I'll probably never forget game 2 when Connor Sherry probably broke everyone's hearts before he went to Washington. But hey, you have former Penguin Nick Bonino there now. He can't hurt you anymore.
No, Nick Bonino. No, well, he can, just not that way. He just hurts us in other ways. Nick Bonino only scores goals. So, before we get into today's episode, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by FanDuel. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. So we have two teams that are very much kind of polar opposites, but kind of a little bit the same. We know with the Penguins, right? You guys, aging core, this feels very almost last dance-ish. You got a couple, maybe a couple more years here, but you're kind of starting to see the end of potentially I don't want to say dynasty, but like this core, right? And the Sharks, they're moving out of there. They're starting their rebuild or reload or retool or whatever Mike Grier wants to kind of call it. But so, with the Penguins this year, how, for us fans, we don't watch the Penguins that often or whatever, how would you kind of explain this season so far?
I could probably give you an hour-long answer when it comes to that. Started out great, first 5-6 games or 5-0-1. Had that 7-game losing streak, ran through the rest of the league for the next month or two. And then it's just been kind of up and down. They had another 6-game losing streak. Started to win some more games, but they've also been really banged up as of late, but have started to get some guys back. It's just been really inconsistent. The term I've been using a lot on my podcast is they've been very Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You just really don't know what version you're going to get from them on some nights. The top 6, I would say, has mostly carried them to their wins this season. Sidney Crosby has been really good as usual, but he's slacked off a little bit, I would say, these last couple of weeks. I don't know if he's battling an injury, but definitely not the same we saw earlier on the season where he's just kind of putting the team on his back. When healthy, Tristan Jarry has been good, but it's just he struggled to stay healthy this season. But yeah, JD, it's just been very up and down, and they're in a playoff spot right now. They got to keep banking points because the Buffalo Sabres of all teams are right behind them, and good for the Sabres. I think it's great for the hockey market up there that they're finally playing meaningful games. Outside of that, I think there's other teams down there that are just kind of inconsistent as well. But it's just they have their own issues, with the third line and just depth scoring. The backup goaltender hasn't been as good at times. But, I still think when healthy and when this team is on its game, they're one of the best teams in the league. It's just they need to start playing like it and just cut these inconsistencies out.
Yeah, a team that's consistently inconsistent, I'd say, is the Sharks. This season for them they're one of the 5 worst teams in the NHL. And it's weird, though, because if you look on the surface, you have guys like Erik Karlsson, who's on a 100-plus point pace. You have Timo Meier, who's been dominating. Tomas Hertl's had a good season. Lone Couture's had a pretty solid season as well. But this team, my term is they make catastrophic mistakes where any mistake just gets compounded and it ends up in the back of the net. And last year, the Sharks had a really solid goaltending with James Reimer and Aiden Hill, but maybe not league average-ish. This year, it's been not very good at all. And you don't know if it's the goalies themselves, if it's the defensemen making bad mistakes at the worst time. And it's like I said, it's any little mistake just seems to get compounded and ends up in the back of their net. And this is how this team has become one of the 5 worst teams in the NHL, despite scoring a ton of goals and, being really fun to watch night in and night out with Erik Karlsson and Timo Meier. But 2 guys don't make a team, right?
No. I mean, and I'm very happy for Erik Karlsson. I back in 2016, I think he was one of the 5 best players on the planet, to be honest. When he was in his prime, he reminded me a lot of like a mini little Paul Coffey, to be honest. I'm so happy that he's playing at this level again, because he had lost that for a long time. And when I look at that Sharks lineup, JD, there are some good forwards here. As you said, Timo Meier, he's probably going to get dealt, I would think, at the deadline. Just hope he doesn't go to New Jersey or anything like that. Please don't send him there.
I can't for my own health. I can't have him go to New Jersey.
No.
Growing up as a Flyers fan, I cannot stand New Jersey at all. Yes. So
no. I do not want to see him go there. Hurdle's always good. Logan Couture. But outside of like, I guess, those main core players, it's a completely different Sharks team than what I'm used to. Obviously, I know Nick Bonino is still there, former Pittsburgh Penguins legend, but Kevin Labanc, Barbunov, Nico Sturm, Evgeny Svechnikov, Oscar Lindblom, former Philadelphia Flyer. This is definitely a team that, I think everyone knew they were in transition heading into this year. But it sounds like the fans have fully embraced this team being bad and trying to tank for Connor Bedard. Is that right? Like I think most fans just want the team to, recoup picks and all that, just so that they can jumpstart the next window of contention here.
Yeah. And it's because this team is not really fully committed, right? The 2018-19 season, right? They went to the Western Conference Finals. And then since then, they've missed the playoffs every year, 3, now going to be 4 years in a row. And this team, under Doug Wilson, it was like, hey, we have this core. We think we can, kind of try to make one more run with these guys. And of course, that never happened. And Mike Grier in his first season, I think he wanted to give these guys an opportunity. He went out, tried to add some depth pieces, along the bottom, guys like Nico Sturms, guys like, like that, who kind of come in, they're competent NHL players. Try to make it easier so that way you're not trying to rush in your prospects, all that fun stuff. And this team is just, they just don't have anything special outside of Timo and Erik Karlsson. And I mean, you and I both know, like, it's the special players that make you a good team to a great team, and make you a great team to a cup team. And, you've gotten to watch Sidney Crosby for the past, 18 plus year. How long? It's been forever now. Almost 20 years now, right? Yeah.
Almost 20. Yeah.
Oh God, we're getting old, buddy. Like you've got, special players like that are what kind of make you a team. And yes, you have to surround them. We've seen Edmonton, right? You have a special player. They haven't done a good job of surrounding him with talent. And the Sharks, they don't have enough special players. They have some talented players, but don't have enough special players. And I think most fans are ready to fully embrace getting a special player potentially in the NHL draft, and adding that they've been drafting really well the past couple of years, but adding that special player, and then you can talk about, okay, this next type of core. So before though we get into kind of what's next for these teams, maybe look at the trade deadline, what both teams are probably going to be doing different things, but pretty active. Do want to let you guys know about our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, it's one of the best weekends of the year coming up here with the NFL playoffs. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because they're the number one sportsbook in America, FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, it's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. And new customers right now, join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets, from money line to point spreads to player props. Plus, you can even combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. Again, if you like the Niners to win, Christian McCaffrey touchdown. I don't know. Anytime touchdown, it just makes sense to me. So that's just who am I? Just some guy. On an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So football fans, don't miss out. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports book partner of the NFL. Okay, so I see your co-host is also active back there. So
he is mad at his sister right now. She probably took a bone from him, and he's probably just pissed off about it.
That's fine. That's fine. Of course, that they are the real hosts, right?
Yes.
Yes. So Penguins, I know they're, kind of locked up, kind of an aging core, but it does feel like this is, like I said, kind of won their last run. So heading into the trade deadline, I know this team doesn't have the most assets, especially when you've been kind of competing for a cup in the last couple of years for a long time. Sharks were in the same position, right? You trading away the future a lot, but what are the Penguins going to do to try to kind of make this last run, especially when you have teams like Boston and the Hurricane? You have some of these monsters out east.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I really hope they don't draw Boston in the first round. That's probably a quick first round exit right there with how the Bruins are playing this year.
They're insane.
They're crazy. I mean, the Penguins, funny enough, the Penguins have actually played the Bruins tougher than I think most teams have. They probably should have won the first game against them. And then the Winter Classic, I think they played two and a half really strong periods. The Bruins just, they played well in the last half of the third. So outside of that, Penguins, they have the top six, I feel like. Their fourth line has been really starting to cook these last few games. But, man, that third line is just awful. I mean, Robin again was riding an 18% shooting percentage through the first 30-plus games.
That's not very sustainable. Yes.
JD, he hasn't scored in 15 games now. I think we all knew what to expect there. I like Brock. I think he's a fine player, but he's just not getting it done. Poor Jeff Carter. It's not his fault that Ron Hextall decided to give him that 2-year extension. He has 4 goals this year. One of them is an empty netter. All of his underlinings completely stink. And then Teddy Blueger on there right now. Outside of his one game in Philadelphia, he's on pace for barely even 10 points this season. And he's usually their fourth line center. Just not good enough. They need a difference maker on that third line. I don't care who you get, whether it's players I've looked at, such as Nick Schmaltz, Bo Horvat from Vancouver, if you can somehow swing that. Max Domi, if you want to get even more creative, even though he has a high cap hit. Jonathan Toews from Chicago. They got to get someone down there on that third line that can actually produce offense and also play well defensively. They are not getting anything from that line right now. They're getting caved in on a nightly basis. That's what I'm really looking for. It also would help if the GM actually wants to wake up from the nap that he's in. Hextall really doesn't do too much. I know we don't have Jim Rutherford as a GM here, who probably would have made 5 trades by now just because that's who he is. But, the deadline is still we're 5 weeks away, I think.
Yeah.
At that point, you got to start to see what the problems are with this team. I think outside chance they may go out and get a 1B goaltender. Tristan Jarry is hurt again right now. He had a groin injury before. I haven't heard what this latest injury was, but it's a risk going into the playoffs for a third year in a row with this same tandem, which was hurt last year and then was hurt also the year before when Jarry just couldn't up anything. So I think that's an area that they could look to improve as well. Defensively, they should be fine when they're fully healthy, but they need to go out and get at least one difference maker for their third line. The 3 cups that they've won in the Crosby-Malkin era, they've had a true third line center down there, whether it's Jordan Staal, Nick Bonino, heck, they had Phil Kessel down their third line in 2016, 2017. So
yes.
The blueprint is there. Hextall just has to see it. Yeah.
No, I mean, and the Sharks are going to be very active. And the other end kind of selling off pieces here. You talk about a 1B. I hadn't thought of Pittsburgh, but James Reimer, I think, is a perfect kind of 1B type of guy who can come in, play a couple games. He's not going to cost you very much. The Sharks will be more than happy to eat half his cap. It's basically you're going to $1 million to kind of fit him in the cap. And, he can come in, especially at the end of the season. Maybe you're kind of already locked in your playoff spot, or if you need, like I said, you need Jarry to kind of rest for a couple games. We've seen Reimer be able to carry the load for a while and play really well, especially behind what is a mess at the blue line for the Sharks. So I think somebody like that kind of makes a lot of sense, especially a veteran guy like that who he's going to fit in the locker room. Everyone knows James Reimer is a great guy, on and off of the ice. I think that could be a potential right there. Sharks, though, I mean, the big, if you're looking for a difference maker, though, it's Timo Meier, and we kind of, you kind of mentioned it earlier before, and the Sharks, it's kind of seems they're going to kind of play this out until the end. And the big thing with with Meier is he's still an RFA, right? So if the Sharks wanted to, they could sign him to a 1-year qualifying offer and play this game all over again next year. But it sounds like this year is going to be we're either going to sign you to your 8-year monster extension, or we're going to trade you. And probably the team that signs you is going to sign you or trade for you is going to sign you to that 8-year monster extension type of thing. But he is a first line center or first line winger on any team. Like, he can come in, he shoots a lot, he scores a lot. He's a power forward. He's got speed, skill. He could do it all. And if the Penguins were to, I haven't heard the Penguins being interested, but if the Penguins were able to pull that off, you would be absolutely insane having Crosby dishing things to Meier. if
they would put him on that line, they're very comfortable having him play with Gensel and Raquel, or they put Rust up there.
Mm-hmm. Meier is like, I think too with Meier, because like, again, West Coast teams, right? You don't get to see Meier a lot and stuff like that. Like, he's really good, man. Like, like on this Sharks team, I know he plays with Hurdle, but it's like what he's doing with not much around him. Like, if you get going from Hurdle to Crosby and letting Meier just do that, or like I said, he's really good.
I think Adam Gretz of Pittsburgh and a couple other places was actually writing about Meier this week for his website, and said, like, why not for the Penguins? Like, you don't have really anything to lose. You can trade, they'll have to, it's probably dollar in, dollar out just because of the salary cap situation, but they have futures this year, especially their first round pick. I know Ron Hextall's doesn't like giving up those first, but you just sign back all those players from the offseason. You kind of owe it to your core to try to take a couple, as many, swings at this thing as you can. I will say the Penguins don't have that many good prospects, JD. I think the best one is Owen Pickering, who they just drafted this past year. And I have to think that he's probably off the table in any trade. That's probably the only one that they would leave off the table, because I think he's going to be good at some point. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, there's just, it's slim pickings when it comes to trading with this team. I think it's going to have to be picks and then, some roster players or something like that. And then I was also wondering, is Erik Karlsson going to be on the block this season? I know he has that massive cap hit. Believe he has the no trade clause in it. Would he potentially get moved to a contender at the deadline?
I honestly don't see it. Again, like you said, so he still has 4 years left after this year at $11.5 million. Full no move clause. So not even just in a trade, no move clause. So he has to approve any trade. And again, Erik Karlsson has been amazing this season, right? Norris caliber defenseman this year, but I don't think that wipes away what we've seen the past 3 years where he's been oft injured and hasn't produced at the same rate that we're seeing this year. So I just don't see a team. And then again, even like, I don't think the Sharks are going to be willing to eat that much cap for that long, because you're expecting this team like in the next 3 years to hopefully start to kind of pull things around there again. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I just don't see them committing to having to kind of eat that amount of cap space for that long for a player who's still right now producing for you. So Pierre LeBrun thinks if there's a trade that's going to happen, it's probably going to be the off season, where a little bit more flexibility. I just don't see a team being able to kind of, I think there's just too many hurdles right now to be able to move Erik Karlsson's contract. So I would be shocked at this point if he gets traded during the season.
Yeah, I think I saw the asking price. I don't know which insider reported it, but I think someone said like 2 or 3 first rounders. I'm like, what are you talking? I'm like, the day I see a player trade for 3 first rounders is I think the day hell freezes over, to be honest. I'm just like,
that's when Connor McDavid gets traded. That's the day is when Connor McDavid gets traded.
Like,
So.
I'm like, I know Karlsson's awesome, but I don't know what team has given up 3 straight first rounders. This isn't the NBA here.
Yeah. I mean, that could just be the asking price of a team's like, hey, what is it? And if Mike Grier says 3 first rounders, cool, we asked. He's just not available right now. So, which, again, I like watching Erik Karlsson play hockey. So I would like to keep him in Teal for as long as possible because Erik Karlsson is awesome at hockey. So, all right, Hunter, heading into this game, we don't get to, see each other very often. So what as Sharks fans, what should we be kind of on the lookout from the Penguins? Like kind of what makes them so dangerous?
Yeah, so for this game, and the 2 games last year between these 2 teams were awesome. I think the Penguins were up 6-1 in Pittsburgh, then the Sharks made it 6-5, if I recall correctly, and then I think the Penguins.
Oh yeah, that crazy game, I remember that. Yeah.
That was nuts. I think they won 7, 8-5, 8-6, somewhere around those lines.
It was some ridiculous number.
Yeah, those 2 games were pretty nuts. For this game, I think it's really all about the Penguins' top 6. Jake Gensel's been a little cold as of late, but he can heat up at any time. Same goes with Sid. But Rickard Rakell has been awesome for this team this season. I think before yesterday's game, he had goals in 4 or 5 straight games. He's been awesome ever since just coming over from the Ducks and since signing the extension in the offseason. That is their bread and butter for their offense. Their power play has just been up and down, I would say, throughout the year. You have to game plan for, with how it's been going, make much of an impact, but it's mainly just the star players that I think you really have to look out for. I'm not really expecting anything from the third line. Their fourth line, though, again, that line has been actually starting to play really well as of late. Drew O'Connor, a young player coming up from Wilkes-Barre, that's probably the best I've seen him play as a member of the Penguins. Ryan Killing, I don't really like his offensive ability too much, but he's a decent penalty killer, and he's also playing well defensively for that line as a forechecking menace. And then Danton Heinen, he's getting back into one of those goal streaks. He has goals in 2 straight games now after not scoring since October, when I think he had 2 against Columbus. Very, very streaky player. But that's really what I think what the Sharks have to watch out for in this one. It's just the Penguins' top 6. When they win, it's usually when the players in the top 6 score. They have gotten a little bit of depth scoring these last couple of games, which is a very welcome sight. I will say the Sharks, they could have the advantage because the Penguins have been giving up a lot of shots as of late. They've been giving up 40+ shots almost every game, it feels like. Outside of that game against New Jersey last weekend when they held them to 23, if I recall correctly, they've been giving up 35, 40 shots a game, which is unacceptable, even with, Letang and Petrie coming back. And then goaltending-wise, I would expect Casey DeSmith to start this one. Tristan Jarry is out until after the All-Star break. But, that's really what I would be looking for in this one, if I were a Sharks fan. But for the Penguins listeners, JD, I know obviously the Penguins don't see the Sharks very often at this point. What do they have to look out for, especially on a team that, is coming into this game on a back-to-back? And funny enough, we were talking pre-show, they blew that 2-goal lead with less than 2 minutes to go to lose, and the tank for Bedard is fully on against the Hurricanes.
Yes. The Sharks going to be coming off second night of a back-to-back and having to travel from Raleigh to Pittsburgh. Yeah, this is part of a kind of a death march road trip where they've played against Boston, they played against Carolina, they've played against they're going to play against Florida. Like they've played like a lot of these just really, really good teams, and expect Kaapo Kähkönen will be starting. James Reimer started on Friday night, so I'd expect Kaapo Kähkönen starting. Kähkönen's had a pretty down season this year. Started to play a little bit better recently, but he's had kind of hasn't lived up to the expectations after the Sharks traded for him last trade deadline, and they gave him a 2-year extension this offseason. But the Sharks are kind of a one-line team, right? It's the Kevin LeBanc, Tomas Hertl, and Timo Meier. And Timo Meier kind of does the bulk of the work on that line. This line is one of the top 10 in producing expected goals in the league. They are, if that line is cooking, the Sharks usually have a good chance of winning, or at least being competitive, right? Maybe not winning, but being competitive, especially because Erik Karlsson kind of plays with those guys a lot. So Timo Meier has been actually one of their most consistent scorers. He started really slow, didn't have a goal for the first 9 games. Since then, he's got 28 games. what is that in the last 40 games, 28 goals in the last like 40 games for the Sharks. And he's been very consistent where he hasn't gone more than, a game or two without scoring a goal. Didn't score against the Hurricanes, so expect Timo time against the Penguins because that's what he does. He's on a tear this year. He's in a contract year and he's trying to get paid what he deserves. So the power play for the Sharks is very much a one side. It's a stars and scrubs approach. First, the first power play unit's really good. The second power play is guys like Nick Bonino, Nico Sturm, Matt Benning. They're just out there to kind of give the guys a rest. So penalty kill for the Sharks, though, is very, very good. They're one of the top, I think they're 2 or 3 right now in the PK. Very, very good. So if the Sharks can kind of control the special teams battle, hang in there 5-on-5, I think that's kind of their road to success. So, Hunter, who you got tonight?
I will say this: the Penguins better not lose this game.
The Sharks better not win this game. That's what I'm saying.
Playing on a back-to-back, they just blew a 2-goal lead with less than 2 minutes left to the Hurricanes down in Raleigh. That is a total tank job, if you ask me. Usually, teams can hold on with less than 2 minutes left. After you get an empty netter, I saw they totally tanked that one away. The Penguins will be playing up against a backup goal. A team that's going to get to city or according to 10 o'clock on Friday. They're probably not going to get there till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. in the morning to their hotel rooms. They had better win this game. You're playing a team that is legitimately tanking. I do like the Penguins to win this one. It's probably going to be a little more low scoring. I'm probably going to go 3-1, something like that. I think the Penguins get an empty netter late in the game, but I do think the Penguins take it and they get 2 much needed points going into their bye week next week, JD, where they can hopefully get some injured players back, and then they have the All-Star break. So this will be their last game for the next 8 or 9 days, which will be a welcome sight as they're still a little bit banged up right now. But I have the Penguins in this one. If they can control the special teams battle, the PK's still top 10 in the league, even though it's gone down a little bit. Power play can wake up a little bit, and 5v5, they can control the expected goals and the scoring chances and all that. And Casey DeSmith plays the way he did against Washington, despite the loss. I would expect the Penguins to win this game.
Yeah, I got the Penguins winning this game too. I got 4-2, just because, like you said, I know it's the last game before kind of the All-Star break and the bye week and everything like that. Same thing for the Sharks, but I mean, this is the last game of this massive road trip, right? They just blew a lead to the Hurricanes. They're having to travel. They're probably ready to go home. So actually, you know what? I think it's gonna be like 5 or 6-2. I just think the Penguins kind of just come out and drum the Sharks. But put me down for Timo Meier goal because Timo Meier just scores goals. So, all right, Hunter, where can the people find you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodies. The show's Twitter as LO_Penguins. You can find the show wherever you get podcasts: Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We're on Amazon Music now, ad-free, if you did not know that. And all that other jazz. JD, I'll ask the same for you for my.
You can follow me on Twitter at my fry hole. You can listen, of course, wherever you get podcasts, all that fun stuff. Like he just said, follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. And I assume we'll be both back on Monday to recap a weekend of hockey. So until then, bye, friends.